Hi, I'm Colleen, and the purpose of this video is to give you the 5 reasons why alcohol use disorder develops, the how and the why of the process. For most of us, it develops over a very slow and long period of time, and we just don't see the warning signs, and we neglect to take action while we still kind of have the opportunity and the ability to do so. I can pinpoint a time in my life when I switched from needing a reason to drink, such as social or special occasions, to needing a reason to not drink. I check all the boxes in my life. I was busy, I was active, I was productive, I was successful. And once all those boxes were checked, I felt like I deserved a reward. And I threw out all the arbitrary reasons, or at least they seemed arbitrary to me, that we're not supposed to drink. All the rules, don't drink alone, limit yourself to 2 glasses, don't drink on weeknights, things like that. I didn't really see a purpose for those rules. I thought they didn't apply to me. So I very slowly over time developed a problem. For a long time, though, drinking was positive. It was mostly good. I didn't have negative consequences. I felt good. I looked good. I was functional. I just was a drinker. That was my identity. I thought that was part of my culture. I thought it was all okay. I thought it was good. I did not understand that there was a long-term trajectory that I was on. The slope was pretty slow, but then it started to pick up and I did started experiencing problems. I started feeling really bad. I didn't know I had painted myself into a corner. And so I thought that it was me. I thought there was something wrong with me and really not even me and my drinking. I thought there was something wrong with my life. And I just kind of internalized a lot of negativity and I was pretending to be okay when I really wasn't. Over time, it became harder to moderate my drinking, and I felt worse and worse as I went on. So, let me explain the 5 reasons that alcohol use disorder develops, because once you understand it, then you can do something about it and you can see the process for what it is. First of all, number one is that alcohol produces 2 to 10 times the dopamine that normal everyday activities produce. So, yeah, it feels really good. It is relaxing. It is a little bit euphoric. And it leads us to crave more. It's a high reward behavior. So anything that feels good, we naturally want more of. That's how our brains are designed. It's just like sugar. The more you eat it, the more you want it. It doesn't necessarily satisfy the craving. The craving becomes for more and more. So alcohol is a high dopamine activity. And because it's a high dopamine activity, that brings us to number 2, which is that the dopamine is neutralized in the brain with the I don't give a shit neurotransmitter called dynorphin. The brain has to counteract the dopamine lest we get too relaxed and forget to breathe, or so happy we decide that we can fly and jump off of a skyscraper. It's not safe. And so that dynorphin kicks in, and that brings in feelings of apathy. And that translates to, we drank 3/4 the bottle of wine and we're looking at the rest of it and we're like, who cares if I drink the rest? It doesn't really matter. And so we get really apathetic as we drink. And you'll notice if you pay attention when you are drinking that you do feel really good with the first or second drink most of the time. But really, if you check in with yourself after that third glass, you're not feeling great because the dynorphin has kicked in. And ultimately, that actually leads to a craving for another drink because you're chasing the high that you started with in the beginning and you want to continue to feel that way, even though it's kind of in decline. So that leads us to number 3, which is that because we're experiencing regular floods of dopamine, the brain stops producing it in reaction to normal everyday activities. And over time, we start to feel less connected and less enthusiastic and less motivated. And that's a problem. It's kind of like when you do eat a lot of sugar and then you eat a blueberry. It's not really as sweet, it's not really as good. And yet, because it's in comparison, and yet when you don't eat a lot of sugar and you have a blueberry, they're like the nectar of summer. They're just amazing, unless they're sour from the grocery store, but that's a different story. So we start to become disconnected through our lives because our brains no longer respond. Our child smiles at us and our brain doesn't fire. And so we lose interest in normal and everyday activities, which again perpetuates our reliance on alcohol. We need to drink so that we can feel happy again. And that's where the problems begin to set in. Number four, and this is huge, the brain, because alcohol is a depressant, the brain also counteracts the depressive effects with stimulating hormones like cortisol. And the problem is those stress hormones last a lot longer. So once the buzz wears off, that's why we wake up, way too early or in the middle of the night and we feel agitated. And then we move into the day and not even realizing it, if we're normal drinkers, we're in a chronic state of stress because we have artificially elevated levels of cortisol at all times. And that just feels normal to us. We don't realize how much stress alcohol places on our body. And so again, happy hour comes up and we've had a stressful day, artificially enhanced stress because of last night's drinking. But the only way to relieve that is to drink more. And that leads us to number five, which is that alcohol creates a craving for more alcohol. Basically, if you're a regular drinker, you're in a chronic state of withdrawal when you're not drinking. So when it comes time in the evening and you're like, well, it's Monday, I shouldn't have a drink. Ultimately, it's not that drinking would make you feel so good. It's that not drinking feels so bad. So you're just drinking to relieve the withdrawals. And those are the five steps to how alcohol use disorder develops. It's a very slow process and you don't really see it until kind of you look back in hindsight and you're like, oh, yeah, that applies to me. So you can use this information to adjust your drinking and to make better choices for yourself now that you understand, the discomfort of withdrawals really aren't that bad. If you see them for what they are and don't misplace that discomfort as a product of somebody else's bullshit or your life circumstances. No, you're experiencing alcohol withdrawals and the best way to deal with that is to let that process and not pour more alcohol on the problem and make it worse. If you like this video, go to the link in my bio and check out my Facebook group called Normalize Sobriety. Join that group. It's private, and I work with people who are working to change their relationship with alcohol. And I post content like this almost every day. And so come and connect with me and just see that you're not alone. So many people are dealing with some stage of alcohol use disorder. And facing it head on is the best thing I ever did. I attended a party this last weekend. I haven't had a drink in 15 months. And I've done a lot of work with my mindset. I don't feel like I'm missing out. I don't feel like, everybody can drink except for me. I don't have all the drama of, I think I'm an alcoholic, none of that stuff. There's so much you can do to just simply change your behavior, change your mindset, and move on with your life free of this addiction to alcohol. So check out my Facebook group and we'll talk soon.